Today we're going to talk about correlation. Okay, correlation and scatter plots. We got a lot of things to cover now. So I'm just going to break down the basics of what we're doing when we're looking at scatter plots and correlation. Okay, just like slope, we have positive and negative. Let's look at a positive correlation. Scatter plots. Look at the direction. Something like this would be considered to be a positive correlation, okay? Just like slope being positive. Let's look at negative. Something like this would be considered to be a negative correlation. And then we also have the idea of this. Exactly, what's that, right? Nothing, exactly, no correlation, no association. Okay, so positive, negative, and then none. Okay, positive, negative, none for correlation. This is correlation. Okay, ditto, fine. You know what it is. Okay, so now we have to talk about the strength of it as well. Okay, so if we have a correlation that is really close together, like the dots are like almost making a perfect line, then we would say it's strong. Opposed to if we have a dots that are like further out, but still negative, right? So this is a strong positive, and this would be a weak negative. Okay, if you get the point we're trying to say. Now, also, we use scatter plots in the correlation of them to predict things. All right, so let's look at another one. Let's just take a scatter plot like so, and then we say, okay, fine, we know what's going on here, but what about what's happening like over here? So we can make a prediction, and to do that we can use what's called the line of best fit. Okay, so when you draw this line of best fit, you want to make it so that it's like basically in between all these dots here. Okay, getting the basis of the information. These dots, these points here, are basically data. Okay, or data. Either way, doesn't matter. So it's information, and of two things and how they relate to each other. Okay, so if you draw this line of best fit, you don't want to draw it too high. You don't want to draw it too low. You want to draw it in between, and so you get a good representation of the information. Something like that. That would be considered the line of best fit. Okay, this is it. And you can do that. So now we can draw this line and extend it and try to get some prediction about what's going on later on in the graph. That's the idea of that. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about in reference to scatter plots and correlation is about the strength, but a little bit more precisely, because we're going to give a number to it, and we're going to use R to represent that number, R for regression. That R has a number that's going to represent the strength of the correlation. Okay, so it can be as low as -1, which would be a negative correlation, but perfectly negative. Like it would be the dots would be completely in a line. Okay, that's a very strong negative. There could be no correlation at all, and there could be a positive one, which would be a positive correlation, but it would be like so perfect, like exactly in the line, and that doesn't really happen. Okay, so perfect, positive, perfect, negative. So let's talk about the strength numbers now. So if it's weak, it would be approximately 0.1 to around 0.3. If it's moderate, then that would be about 0.4 to about 0.6. And then if it's strong, it would be about 0.7 to 0.9. Okay, so now this is if it's positive. Okay, if it's positive. The same thing is true if it was negative. You just make it the opposite. So it'd be, if it was negative and weak, it would be -0.1 to -0.3, and so forth. So that's the breakdown of positive, what it looks like, positive correlation, negative correlation, no correlation at all, And then we have the strength. Strength, when it's positive, the closer the dots get to each other. When things are weak, it gets further apart. I just used a negative example, but basically it's how far the dots are that makes it kind of weak. And then again, we use a line of best fit. It's a line that we try to draw between these dots to represent the masses of it, okay? And so that we can use this line to predict things that might happen later on the graph. The strength, again, from weak to strong, approximately with these numbers here, okay? And that's scatter plots and correlation.